First of all, happy birthday, Trina.
Thank you, Russ. And I remember a very special birthday. I don't remember which one that was, Russ. Was that 85 or 80?
I think it was 85. I'll see if I could even find a picture of
On
that.
my front porch, we had a big table that Russ set up,
Yeah.
and we had all kinds of people there, including his children, because Russell lived with me for 2.5 years. So we got to know each pretty well, and we still love and trust each other, which is pretty nice.
Absolutely. Trina, I wish you so much joy and happiness and health in this new year for you. And as I'm seeing more people pop on, it's so happy. It makes me so happy to know all the incredible universe you've created around you of people whose lives you've touched. So I'll tell a quick story here. Yesterday, I gave a speech at the part of the Montclair Film Festival event. It's called a story slam, where people get up and they tell their stories for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. And at the end of the event, some judges got to get together and then they announce a winner for the best story. And Trina, you can guess what story I got up to tell. And I got up and I told the story of Hope for the Flowers and of meeting Trina Paulus in Montclair, New Jersey. And I'm pretty proud to say that I actually won the competition, which is pretty wild. I've never even and I can read it to everybody here. I can present the story because I think it's a little bit of a longer story than what Trina just introduced. But what I want to make sure that we do is we want to have everybody to have an opportunity here to tell their stories. I want everybody to share all the ways that Trina has touched their lives. I think about this term a lot, the butterfly effect, and all the kindness and the joy and all of the good spirit that Trina has passed on to all of her readers and all the people in her life directly have gone on to share all that positivity in their world and in ways that Trina, you won't ever know all the impact that you've had. So that's the butterfly effect to me.
Thank you. By the way, Fred, what are you doing? Okay.
Hi, Fred.
And he has his own, he's one of those wonderful small business people that's making it. Okay, look at this. Oh, and there's Ed over there in a corner. Hello, Ed Rogers. Are people able to unmute themselves?
So what
do you have to do it?
What I'd like to do, Trina, is I think in terms of making sure that not everybody speaks at once. If it's okay with you, Trina, maybe I'll read my story first, and in those first few minutes, it's not that long. I had to cut it down. Believe me, I could write a whole book about it, and someday I may. But I can tell my story, and then anybody else who'd like to share their story, whether it's 10 seconds or 10 minutes, whatever you want to share, you can add your name to the chat, and we'll just kind of go in order, and that way we can one by one unmute and everybody can share their well wishes for the amazing Trina Paulus, if that's okay. So Trina, you want to hear my award-winning short story?
Yes, of course.
So I got up there yesterday. I'd never even been to one of these events, and they had a podium, and I went up there and I had my copy of the book, and I said, everybody has a favorite book when they were a child. When I was growing up in New York City, for me, it was Hope for the Flowers. And for whatever reason, this book found me, and I held on to it. I carried it with me through my life as I made the transition from childhood to adulthood. I carried it with me to college when I moved up to Boston. And then again, I carried it with me as I made the transition to suburban dad living in Montclair, New Jersey. And then one day I'm walking with my kids in my neighborhood near Wildwood Avenue, and I stumble across a butterfly tent filled with hundreds of these monarch butterflies. These kids are inside with butterflies crawling all around their faces. And outside of the tent, there was a copy that just like that, Trina, just a little taller. They had to fit some toddlers and some kids, some very happy kids. But oh, hello, hello, hello. So my kids went in there. They're playing inside the butterfly tent, and outside the tent is a table, a folding table with copies of Hope for the Flowers on it. And I look at the book and I go, oh my goodness, I know this book. I love this book. This is my favorite book. And a woman behind the table smiled at me and said, well, I wrote it. And that's how I met Trina Paulus. And I told Trina that day how much her book meant to me, how it taught me about the meaning of life and of love, how it inspired me to go into a career in children's publishing. And Trina, you signed a copy of your book that day for me, and I read it to my kids that night. And now here's where I got a little bit personal, because the truth of it is, I didn't mean to move to New Jersey. I just happened to marry a Jersey girl. And so it brought me to New Jersey, brought me to Montclair, but I actually didn't really feel at home in Montclair and in New Jersey. I'm a city kid. It was a strange place for me. But in that day, knowing that Trina Paulus lived down the street, maybe I was supposed to be there. That's how it felt. And then over the next year, as I continued to work, I would write stories up in my attic and change diapers downstairs. I made another big transition in my life, and that's from a husband and father to a single dad. And I had to navigate my new life as a divorced person. And maybe I never expected it to happen. I don't think anybody ever really does. But here I was going through a divorce with 2 young children, and I'm in New Jersey. I didn't even know what I was supposed to do here in New Jersey. I had no family here, no roots. My world was back in New York City, my friends, my parents, my career. Heck, I didn't even have a place to stay in New Jersey. When I had the kids, we tried to figure out what we would do together. We'd go bowling or explore Eagle Rock Reservation or have meals at the different diners around town. One afternoon, we decided we could go visit Trina Paulus and have a picnic together on her front porch. And I remember, Trina, your yard was overgrown with milkweed, and you taught my kids that day how to spot monarch butterfly eggs on the leaves. They were all over. You just had to open your eyes. And I can't even tell you how seeing the little white eggs on the side of the leaf just reminded me of the opening of Hope for the Flowers, of course. My kids spent hours running around the property that day, Trina, trying to find as many eggs as possible. Trina raised the butterflies inside her home, hundreds at a time. The caterpillars would grow fat and form a chrysalis, and Trina would keep them safe until it was time to reemerge in this little miracle. Trina filled her home with all of these little miracles. As the afternoon wore on, it was time for me to go home. I dropped the kids off back with their mom down the street, and then it was time to begin my own journey back home to Manhattan. Trina, you smiled at me and you said, you don't have to go if you don't want to. I have a big house here. It's no problem if you want to sleep for the night or get some rest. And I remember saying, no, thank you, Trina. That's okay. That's kind of you to offer, but I'm going to go home. I don't live here. I live in New York City. It seemed a little too surreal for me to stay there. So I began to drive back, and I can remember clearly, as soon as I hit Route 3, my head, it exploded almost in terms of, I had this headache and it overwhelmed me. I couldn't drive. My body was saying no. My body was saying, turn around. And even though I tried to reject the help, no, I clearly needed a sanctuary. I turned back around. You had a bed for me. I think I slept 14 hours that night or something crazy. I really desperately needed it. And, my subconscious refused to reject this gift, this beautiful gift from the universe. And I stayed with Trina for about the next 2 years. Built a set of bunk beds in one of Trina's bedrooms. I remember, Trina, we turned your 3rd floor into a playroom. My kids filled it with cardboard and they were turning it into all sorts of cool creations. I remember Owen made a foosball table upstairs out of cardboard. Really just had so much fun up there. I remember making dinner together, Trina. You always made fresh popcorn for my kids, which they loved. And I think secretly, or maybe not so secretly, I think you loved it too. Hearing little kids running up and down the stairs. And I gotta tell you, one morning I woke up and the kids were unpacking milkweed pods in your kitchen. And then later you were reading to them from your book. And I can only tell you how surreal and wild and beautiful and wonderful this was for me. I'm inside the home of the author who wrote the book that changed my life as a child. And there she is reading that book to my kids. And this is home. I literally live here. Now, I don't know why I loved Hope for the Flowers so much when I was 9 years old. Maybe I liked the illustrations. The dialogue to me felt universal. But of course, the story is about transitions and transformation. And here I was going through a divorce, navigating parenthood, starting a new business, beginning a new journey in New Jersey. And the whole story is about rebirth. And naturally, it's also about finding a way to fly. And now eventually, of course, I did fly off. I moved into a 3-bedroom apartment over on Walnut Street. And then I fell in love with an amazing woman. And together we now live on a house that's actually, Trina, we live down your street. New, different name, but we live on your street. And as I said to everybody yesterday, we are celebrating your 91st birthday tomorrow, which is now today. And my final point was just that I don't think I'd ever live in New Jersey. I didn't think I would ever get divorced. And I can't begin to explain this journey that your book has led me on and how I ended up, the places I ended up, but I would not change a thing. It has been a dream come true. And Trina, thank you for being the author of this beautiful story and for doing this. And I got to tell you, Trina, the young woman Anne was there in the audience as well. And for those folks who weren't at the butterfly event last week, Anne is a young woman from Korea who read Hope for the Flowers.
Oh.
She grew up in Seoul, South Korea, halfway around the planet, and she moved to Montclair in 2020. And there she was in the park beside Trina reading the Korean version of Hope for the Flowers. And for her, I mean, she was crying during the reading. So I know that as amazing and unique and special as I believe my story is, it's also not unique. That Trina, you've done this in different ways for so many countless people, and you've offered them sanctuaries through your book and through your home and through your friendship. So thank you. Happy birthday. I'm so happy I'm so happy I met you on that day and that I continue to be your friend.
Well, that's a hard one to top. Thank you. And I see my son has come from a day of work where he's driven 50 miles back home. And he has 50-mile commute in California, which is really tough, going from like 8,000 feet to like 5,000 feet. Is that right, Shahad?
Why don't we pass the microphone over here? It looks like Michelle was the next person who said that they wanted to speak. So
okay,
Michelle.
Good. I just heard about you, Michelle. Thank you.
And I have a very old, beaten up copy of your book. And I don't know if you're aware that in the Philippines, National Bookstore, it's the largest bookstore in the Philippines, they had permission to reprint your book. So I first came across your book in the Philippines because I was born and raised in the Philippines. I was 18. I was just graduating from high school and into college. And, those identity crisis years when you're transitioning and all that. And I came across your book and I loved, there was so much. Well, number one, I like to sketch. So I like drawing, and I opened the book and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many drawings in the book. And then I also love the message in front. Hope for the Flowers, a tale partly about life, partly about revolution, and lots about hope for adults and others, including butterflies who can read. I just love that in the front. And then the back was even better. A different sort of book for everyone. except those who have given up completely. And then I love the parenthetical statement. And even they might secretly enjoy it. I just showed this to my husband, and I just met him 2 years ago. So he doesn't know my love affair with Hope for the Flowers, but he said, hey, I really like that, you know, they might secretly enjoy it. Now, I'll just try to be as brief as I can because it's a very long story. So the transition, your book helped me to understand so many things, especially like when they had to try and get up to the caterpillar pillar, and they realized we have to step on people in order to do that. But there was that moment, the defining moment, when I think it was Yellow, or was it Stripe, who decided, no, we're not going to do this. And he took his foot off Yellow or Stripe, I think. And so I love that. And then fast forward to several years later when I was HR director, I still love the book, and I would always have several copies in my bookshelf. And whenever somebody came and said, oh, I have issues with blah, 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 I would pull out a copy and say, have you read Hope for the Flowers? And they would give me a strange look, especially when they saw the sketches. I'd say, read it, just read it without judgment, just read it and then come back and tell me what you think. And I had a lot of converts. And 1 year, I actually bought 100 copies and gave them to all the managers and supervisors and team leaders in the company. And I think some people thought I was crazy, but I think a few appreciated it and became converts, so to speak. And then there was one time, Trina, when I found out that you were actually living, I think back then there was a time you were living on the West Coast, or maybe I misunderstood that, but I thought you were living in the West Coast, and I actually called you. And I was thinking, an author is not going to call me back. And you actually returned my call. I had your voice message on my phone, but I was in a very bad place at the time. I was transitioning again. So I actually said, I'll return the call when I'm in a better state. And I never got to do it. And that was years ago. So I just wanted to say that over the years, your book and the fact that you even returned the call to a total stranger has just touched me so much. And also, I was insisting and begging, like, I need the link. I don't want to watch on YouTube. I want to actually be there at the Zoom meeting. And somebody finally sent me the link a few minutes ago. I was in another meeting and I skipped out to be here. But anyway, happy birthday.
Thank
It's
you.
hard to explain how your book has impacted my life, my kids' life, and my grandkids' life, because now my grandkid has to read the book as well. So thank you very much and happy birthday.
May I ask you, is that the new copy that's digital, or is it the old copy?
Oh, this is the very, very old copy. It's paper.
And it was Xeroxed.
No,
It was Xerox.
no. This is not Xerox. It was published. It has a copyright, reprinted and exclusively distributed by National Bookstore. Whoever your publisher is, National Bookstore in the Philippines had permission because they have it here,
Yes.
reprinted and exclusively distributed. So it's not a photocopy. They reprinted it
Well,
with permission.
You know how this started? I had a friend from the Philippines here at Grailville, where I was at. And I gave her a copy back in 1972, 73. And she took it home with her to the Philippines. Vida Araneta is her name. Araneta, that's a famous name in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And she gave it to Imelda Marcos. And then by presidential decree, it was published illegally, with pirated, and at the National Bookstore. So finally, after a few years, neither my publisher or I knew what to do. So we decided to make it legal. So that's how that happened.
Wow.
It was quite a story.
The National Bookstore card, and I saw it in the National Bookstore, and I believed what it said, reprinted and exclusively distributed. I was thinking, hey, if they would put that, although come to think of it, this copy is not my original one. The first one I had, I don't remember if it had this. This was one of the 100 copies that I bought when I could afford it, when I was HR director in the 90s. I think it was like 96, 97. So by then, you're right. By then, this was the legal, with permission
Yes,
in
yes.
1996. Amazing. I didn't know
I,
that.
I'm
Thank you.
I'm gonna jump in here. It's Marisol, and just say that we just got a message from Rena, who knows someone who knows Imelda, who said that they were going to be reaching out to her about the 50th anniversary. So it's really funny that that's coming up right now.
You mean
Wow.
Imelda Marcos?
Yes, absolutely.
What do you know? Now their son is the president of the Philippines, which is really not a good thing, by the way.
Well,
So
Michelle,
there-
thank you. Thank you for sharing your story, Michelle. I know, Scott, you wanted to relay maybe some comments that we're getting over on the YouTube channel so that
Yeah.
folks can hear what's going on over there. Go ahead,
I've
Scott.
I've actually got them here.
Oh.
I'm on the YouTube. So there's a bunch of, even in the first Zoom, the first YouTube, a lot of happy birthday messages. Kathy Allen is here. Graphman, happy birthday, Trina. Paisley, baby, happy birthday, Trina. Carla and Glenda, happy birthday, Trina. Hosea Higgins Jr. Hello, Trina. Humbled to participate in your wonderful and historic birthday celebration with one of my favorite all-time books. And there's another Leah who says that she has had the copy since 1975. And Rosa Soy is here too. And there's Phil Urish there wishing you a happy birthday. And Sine, happy birthday, Trina. Your book made me who I am today. And I will always look back to our literature class because of your book. Thank you. Leah is also wanting an event. Leah Ramona Gomez. Phil Yursh says, have a wonderful 91st birthday and 50th anniversary of Hope for the Flowers. I'm so grateful that you have been in my life for the past 33 years. And Vicki Eccles, happy birthday. Your legacy lives on. Robert McGlinchey, hoping you have a happy birthday, Trina. And Deborah Lambo is here. Deborah Lamb. And still celebrating. Happy birthday, Peter Vincente. Happy birthday, Trina. Robert H. Way. So there's a bunch of people just really wishing you well, wishing you a very happy birthday here. The Porchistas, which is Alan's out here. Trina, happiest of birthdays to you, my friend. I can't stay long, but I wanted to be here for a little while. Nancy Elrich, happy birthday, Trina. Always grateful to have been able to sell your book in my shop, all thanks to Una. Holly Myers, I'm just learning about you, Trina, and about Hope for the Flowers. This feels very special. So yeah, we've got a lot of wonderful people wishing you well, Trina, over here in the YouTube.
By the way, if Alan is still there, is he still there, Marisol?
He can hear you. We're on the link. He
Okay.
can hear you.
Dear Alan, Alan is the one who wrote the song that opened this up. He did that, and he's very much involved with Casa Mazatel down in Costa Rica, and he goes there quite a bit. And the original song was done down there in Costa Rica. And I'd like to have just some seconds of silence for us, because I just found out that his sister has just died. And so, Alan, we want to send our hope, now that she's passed through the big cocoon, that she's entering a better life somehow. We don't know what that is. All of us have to go in hope, living the best life we can. So let's be just quiet for a little bit in honor of Alan's sister. Thank you. And I think in this crazy time of COVID, we all know people who have suffered greatly and perhaps have died. So we can carry in our hearts all of those people who have passed through the big cocoon. We don't know what that is. That's the final cocoon, and that's the final meaning of hope for the flowers in a way. That you dare hope beyond what you see. And when you see a caterpillar, you'd never dream there was a flying, beautiful butterfly inside. Just don't dream. So thank you all for coming, by the way, today. So I think Russ and Marisol are organizing this, right? There's so many beautiful people here to talk.
I want to make sure everybody who's at least said, I'd like to tell a story, I'd like to share something, has an opportunity. So I think Dave Young, you were the next person there. If you'd like
Oh,
to say a few
Dave.
words.
Hello, Dave.
Hello, Trina, and thank you, Russ and Michelle. Your stories are incredible. I'm amazed to hear those stories and grateful to know of them. My story with Hope for the Flowers and Trina began about 40 years ago. I was 14 years old. I had never read the book. I didn't know what the book was, but I got invited to participate in a theatrical adaptation of Hope for the Flowers at the University of Utah. And this university theater troupe was going to put on a show and take it around to 50 elementary schools all over Utah during that school year. And I got invited to be a musician to perform with this group. So the Hope for the Flowers affected me in an interesting way because I got to know the story initially through this play, Hope for the Flowers, and the repetition of performing it 50 times, the message of hope just sunk into me in a different way. And Russ, I like what you said about the butterfly effect. And I think for me, the butterfly effect was that this story and this concept of caterpillars and butterflies and pillars and all those things had new meaning for me as I'd grow older. As a young teenager, I just understood the simple story. And as I grew older and I would reflect on my experience, the book would have new meaning for me. You know, these pillars of power and money are maybe only so satisfying and don't really get us where we need to go. And yet inside of us, we're not, like just worms, as the story says. There's divinity inside of us, and we can be so much more. And forget those naysayers who tell us that that's all life is about. I was so blessed to meet Trina at this very impressionable time in my life and get to know Hope for the Flowers because I've been able to enjoy this whole experience for my whole life. In fact, I just found these pictures. Looks like Trina's showing a picture of the show that we were in there. So she still has that. That's a great picture. And what the part of that is all those people in that picture, I still interact with those people, which is so amazing. What a miracle it is that all of us are here on this call 50 years after this book was produced, and it still has meaning for us. What a miracle I think that is for each one of us. I found some pictures I have of Trina and me. I wonder if I can show those, Trina. That's the show I was in, and we put on Hope for the Flowers and shared the message of hope with 50 elementary schools all over Utah. Anyway, that's my story. I'm so grateful for Trina. I'm so grateful for this message that has stuck with me for so long. Like I say, I was 14, here I am 54 now, and I'm still here. I'm still part of this message. It still has meaning for me. Happy birthday, Trina. Congratulations.
Thank you. Is Ed Rogers here? He was here. I'm saying this because one of the special things in this is that the lead person, Stripe, was a beautiful, big, husky black guy, and Yellow was a small white girl. And when I think of that troupe going around to all those gymnasiums all over Utah with this interracial couple, it just always has made me so happy inside to see that this statement was made so quietly and beautifully. And if Ed is here, I always hoped that we did it around here, Ed would be Stripe. And he said he would be if it were close enough. So, and he was here for a while. Maybe he had to go someplace. I don't know. But if you're around, Ed, stick your voice out soon. Okay. So take it away, organizers, please.
Again, make sure everybody has a chance. And by the way, Dave, that story is really, really amazing. I knew that there was an adaptation of the book on stage. I hope to see it someday, but the idea of you performing it so many times and bringing the message, delivering the message like that.
Dave was a drummer. Did he say that? He was the drummer. And they're going to be performing it, we think, to another place in Colorado very soon to see how it looks these many decades later.
But it looks like there was Miriam. Are you on the line here? I want to make sure. There you are.
Oh, wonderful.
Trina, I love you. I have known Trina since, or Trina has known me since I was probably 4 years old. Teresa Garuba is my mother, and I remember many, many times we went to the Grail together. And I even remember when I was so little that Jihad and my brother Shatima would sit on me and fart on me. And Trina and my mom were together and we would roll downhill. So I think in some ways, Trina, I've taken for granted everything that you've done for everyone. It's amazing to see this, but I think I've always known you from a much more intimate level. And I've learned from you how it is to be free and how it is to not go with the crowd or the wave. I remember a time when you came to the house to visit and you told me not to use regular deodorant, but to use baking soda. I don't know if you remember. And I remember thinking, she's so free. There's so much to you. And my mom has tons of these books everywhere. She gives them to everyone. And I remember finally opening it up because she would talk about it incessantly. And when I finished reading it, I felt this sense of peace because it kind of encapsulates life. And this is one of those books that is timeless. I mean, in 3,000 years, if someone reads this, it will apply just as it does today. And I think that's the mark of a true gift, of a legacy. But on a personal level, I just, you're like a mother to me. You're a teacher to me. I've known you my whole conscious life anyway. And I just wish you the happiest of birthdays. I think everyone is on in some way or the other. Shatima, Waziri, Fatima, and my mom. So we love you, and I'm not going to take too much time, but that's all I wanted to share.
Fatima, I think you've become a doctor, right?
Your dad.
Yes.
A what?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that Teresa Garuba speaking right now? Oh my gosh. Okay. Teresa was the representative for what, Teresa? Tell them, for the UN when I first met her. And she was driven around by a limousine. I remember when she came to the South Bronx in a limousine. And I didn't know anybody who was driven around in a limousine, but that was Teresa. This was from Nigeria. And Nigeria, of course, has changed a lot of stuff all over the place in these many years since I've known her. So thank you, Teresa, for being a stalwart person with the United Nations. I remember us going and passing out these 11-page folders all over to this health conference where this person was advocating genetically engineered food. And I knew that was wrong back when. And so we passed these things out, and Teresa was there helping me. And so we did. We've been together a long time and done a lot of stuff together.
Praise the Lord, Trina. I just want to say that I'm glad Mariam has spoken for the family and for everybody listening. Mohammed is here. We appreciate you. I want to say that Catholic and universal is what resonates in my heart. I want to say that the Grail, by the way, Mary Lucia was on the line. You remember me through the UN, but I remember you through the Grail. Who says Grail? Who says Trina for me says Grail? I have all the books. Who says meekness and humility says Trina. So the Garuba family, we've used your monarchs for Fatima's first daughter's birthday. I'm just trying to pull it down to the present. And as an educator, we've used your book to teach at Hudson County Community College, St. Peter's College, and Seton Hall University. We're going to continue doing that because the English department, as of Thursday, want me to continue teaching some classes. Now, Barringers High School, a very famous high school in Newark, New Jersey, is a place where Trina's books will be used to teach ESL to students. So Trina is a lot of things to a lot of people, but she's a woman of faith. She's an intercessor. She's a prayer warrior. And like Mariam has said it all, her book made changes in the lives of all the children. I know that Waziri may not be on because he's busy, but after reading Hope for the Flowers, I was astounded that Waziri will take his future bride to visit Trina before they got married. So anybody listening, you can understand what Trina means to the family. I can say that when Shatima got shot, it took Trina to come and stop my womb was shaking when I was told Shatima would not walk. It took Mama Trina to hold my hands and told me to tell me that it would be okay. So if anything, I want you, Trina, to know that we are with you, and whatever goes with Hope for the Flowers, look at the stories that have been told. We are humbled, we are grateful, and the Grail in the world appreciates you. Like Mariam said, I didn't know she was so eloquent. 5,000 years from now, anybody who reads Hope for the Flowers will be moving on. Praise the Lord. Thank you. Thank you. Happy birthday, Grandma.
Thank you,
Mama
Teresa.
Trina.
Thank you so much, Teresa.
Wow. Wow. This is beautiful, people. I'm just so appreciative of hearing everybody's stories, and Trina getting even further, a greater understanding of your influence worldwide. It's beautiful. I want to make sure, I guess, Una, I don't know if you're in a quiet place, because I know you were with Lucy. If
Let me
you're
know
there,
if it's quiet enough.
we got you.
I have headphones in to try and block out the noise. But Trina, you look so wonderful for 91.
Yeah, for 91.
Well, no, you look wonderful regardless. But you're
Thank
full
you.
of as much life as you. It's just good to see you, and wish you a happy birthday.
I want to say Una was my right hand for many years. She's now in North Carolina, so it's not so right-handed anymore. And so it was wonderful to work with her. She was able to write letters back that quite well represented me, which was really a very special gift. Thank you, Una, for all that dedication. And she's a butterfly raiser.
Yes,
She
I
was
was
a
someone
butter-
who. Oh, I'm
Go
hearing
on.
a little echo, but I'm going to try and
You're
tell a
okay.
little bit of a story.
We're hearing you.
I did not know about Hope for the Flowers before. I was a butterfly person who was volunteering at the live butterfly exhibit at the Museum of Natural History. And okay. So
We hear you okay.
you hear me?
Una.
Okay. All right. I'm going to try to ignore the echo in my ear. But so anyway, I was living and working down in Asbury Park at the time after, the events of 2001, 2002. Butterflies were my therapy insect. And my first butterfly tent that I set up down in Asbury Park, I remember Terry Reedy, the former city manager of Montclair, who knew Trina so well, came riding up on the bike from ear to ear. He was smiling when he saw the butterflies, and he said, "I have to introduce you to the butterfly lady of Montclair," and gave me Trina's number. And it was a life-changing meeting, and we had a lot of great times together, Trina, and it was an honor to work with you during around Hope's 40th anniversary, and also to help throw your 80th birthday party in Pat and Fred's backyard. There's just so many great memories, and I'm just so happy to see you still at it, and Hope spreading further than ever in a time where the world needs it more than ever. It's just Hope has been a perennial bestseller for Paulus Press because it's a message that just resonates with people where they're at and grows with them. It's just a beautiful parable. And I know you consider it a gift from God, how you channeled it through to bring it to be a gift for the world. And it really is. I've been having so much fun gifting it to little libraries and random people I run across with, you know, in my travels, just as the spirit moves me. And I that's all I have to say. I could say so much more, but I have to go check on Lucy.
By the way, Una is now a labyrinth person. She does work in labyrinths all over, right?
Yes, and you know, I didn't know it back then, but it's very much connected with the Grail and Hope for the Flowers.
Yes.
And my first introduction to a labyrinth was at Grail at the Cornwall on the Hudson there for the summer solstice, 2 years in a row. I think 1 year Lucy was in my belly, and the next walk on the summer solstice with you guys at the Grail in Cornwall was when Lucy was fresh out of the womb. So I think that Hope for the Flowers, I was actually just talking to a friend of mine today at the Labyrinth and saying the Grail is the central question of Hope for the Flowers is when you see someone in trouble or going through something, you know, to ask how you can be of service, how you can help.
You have to stop what you think your mission is at the moment and ask that question. It's very quick in Hope for the Flowers. She's all yellow, is all despondent and is walking through the woods trying to figure out what in the world she's going to do now that Stripe has gone back on the pillar. And she lifts her head up and sees this apparently suffering caterpillar all tied up in some sticky stuff. And she asks, "You seem in trouble. Can I help?" And then he answers the big quote, "No, my dear, you have to do this to become a butterfly." And she says, "What is a butterfly?" It flies from flower to flower and brings the love from one flower to the other. So that was how she got the secret, because she stopped and asked the question. And I hope we all can do that as we go through our lives. Not be so intent in whatever we think our good work is that we don't have time to ask the ailing, sad king, which is the story in the Grail legend. I can just see those knights going by, those knights on their horses and their back, they're going to find the Grail castle. So they see this guy sitting on the side, and they probably say, "Which way to the Grail castle?" And maybe he feebly lifts up his hand and points, and off they ride. And they never ask the question, "What ails thee? How are you suffering?" So it's hard to deal with that today because it seems so many people are suffering, and we're all wounded healers, folks. We all can do something, even if we're suffering ourselves. We're all, I love that phrase. We're all wounded healers. So thank you all for coming. We're all wounded healers. Me too.
That was great. It was great to hear that, Trina.
Yeah. And Una, thank you for joining us from the Carolinas. It looks beautiful where you are.
Yes, it does.
Cynthia Edwards, I know.
Forest
Oh,
City,
Cynthia
Forest
is
City, North
here.
Carolina. All right. Thank you, Trina. Happy birthday, and so great to see you, Russ. Because I was the person behind the video when we first met Russ, and I'm just so glad that. Anyways, I lived with Trina, and when I cleared out that space, it became available for you. And what has become in these years is just amazing to have witnessed, even from afar. You know, like it's so great. I love you guys.
Miss you.
And she's in Canada.
I'm coming up in
now.
September.
What?
Good. She's coming in September, she said. So Una, please let us know.
That's right around the corner. Goodness.
So Cynthia, I know you-
Cynthia is a permaculture queen. By the way, that's how I met her. She was in Nepal, and I was so enamored with permaculture that I reached out to her, and she ended up coming to Cornwall and giving a course there. And Eva, you're here. Didn't you take that course, or were you with Jerome when he came? Eva, you're muted. You're muted.
Yes, I took Cynthia's course. Yes.
Okay.
Let's hear her talk.
Can I talk now?
go ahead,
Hi,
Cynthia, please.
Trina. I'm so honored that you invited me to attend your birthday party. It's wonderful.
Who is this?
This is Cynthia.
Oh, I thought you had already spoken.
No,
I did.
no,
Okay. All
I
right.
got home late.
Okay.
So I met Trina in 1992 when she had written to me while I was working in Nepal about teaching a workshop at this place in Cornwall, New York. I had no idea what this was about, but I decided to do it. And I had just come back from Nepal and I was a bit in culture shock and ended up coming to the Grail Center in Cornwall, teaching a weekend workshop with a young Nepali woman in tow. And that's how I originally met Trina and the Grail. That eventually led to me teaching workshops at Grailville in Ohio a number of different times, and then led to me becoming the living at Grailville for 2 years, coordinating what was called the WET project, which was the design and construction of a constructive wetland system for sewage treatment. It was the first of its kind in Ohio, a commercial scale. And the EPA was very supportive and set up a whole testing regimen. And it was quite an amazing thing. And it was because Trina pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and would not let the Grail at Grailville hook up to the city sewer. And she was determined that it was going to be something better. And that, so that was how I met Trina, and it has gone, that was 20 years ago now, really, 20 years ago, it was 1992. And I have had connection with her over the years. Last time I saw you, I think was probably 4 years ago, before COVID, when I came down to your house and tried to help you clean stuff out, which was a bit of a disaster, but she is an amazing person. I didn't connect with her through Hope for the Flowers. I learned about that afterwards, about her life and what she had done. But it has been a wonderful lifelong connection. And I'm just so glad to have known you all these years. So
Well,
happy birthday.
thank you, Cynthia. And
and
Phil
well.
Urich, I don't know if he's on to speak, but he was part of what we called the WET project, water environmental treatment. And we went around the country and looked at natural treatment systems for water, for wastewater, because our leach fields, some of our leach fields had failed at Grailville. And we didn't want to do a commercial thing. We know that there's some good stuff in this sewage system, especially if you eat organic and are healthy. So anyhow, thank you, Cynthia, for being my friend all these years and showing up tonight again.
And thank you, Cynthia, for being patient as well. And I appreciate your story and I appreciate what you do. I think Trina has exposed me. Again, I was a city kid. I'm from Manhattan. I grew up on the 22nd floor. I didn't know these words, horticulture and organic farming. So it's been wonderful to learn the world that you guys live in and all the great work and important work that you do.
There's just one more thing I'd like to add, that I live in Canada now. I escaped from the US and living in Eastern Ontario. And much of my work as a landscape gardener and landscape designer focuses on native plants and pollinator plants, which definitely is a part of the work Trina has always done through her life. And it is one of the most gratifying and wonderful things that I find I can do, bringing this into people's suburban gardens, bringing pollinator plants. It's just, it's amazingly great work to be paid to do. So thank you, Trina.
Thank you, Cynthia.
And then looks like Rena has been waiting to say something as well. So Rena, if you'd like to take the microphone, there you go.
Sure, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, first I'd like to teach everybody how to do a heart kiss. I don't know if you've ever done that before. You put your hands on your heart and then you go moi. Okay, so then I'll sing a short song, and after the song, I'd like everyone to give Trina a nice big heart kiss. So I first heard this song sung for an 80-year-old kindergarten teacher in Australia. And I'd like to sing it for Trina now. And I've lit a candle, actually. Candle for Trina. And it's on my parents' golden anniversary candle holder. So it was 91 years ago today when Trina came down from the heavens to stay. He came to bring gladness and joy to the earth. Good people and angels attended her birth. So let us now join in the singing, with heavenly birthday bells ringing. Happy birthday, dear Trina. Happy birthday, dear Trina. Everybody gives her a big mwah from all over the world. Yeah. So I'll be quick because I think others would have a nice story to share, but I'd just like to share how I got connected with the book. So aside from Imelda Marcos, there is a very special woman, even more special, I would say, who actually spread the book to her students in the University of the Philippines. And maybe this is angel work, but I just happened to come across her book recently. Her name is Concepcion de Dufalsa. So Concepcion is, conception, but they call her Ching de Dufalsa. And she was my father's English teacher in university way back in the early 1950s. And I was just so amazed why her students, spanning 5 decades, were so, so loved her so dearly that every year, December 16, they would gather for their birthday. And of course, during my father's time, Hope for the Flowers was not yet published. But for later generations, she only had 2 required readings, among other readings. And that was The Little Prince and Hope for the Flowers. So like Michelle, I have one of those illegal copies. So I guess this would be collector's item now because this is one of the originals. And so when I was telling my friends about the story of Imelda Marcos having a role in spreading it in the Philippines, they said, no wonder we all had these lousy newsprint copies because they just had to print it. But I just like to, my mother is with us here in this gathering. Well, she passed away 9 years ago. And my father, I only have his picture. He was former president of the University of the Philippines. And actually, on a very personal note, I'm actually helping him in his transition. He's fine. He's stable. But I think he so much wants to be with my mother already. And I think he deserves it. He has offered his life for the Philippines. And so one day, one year, I was just so curious, why did everybody love this teacher so much? So she was teaching way up to her 80s. So I audited in her class. I asked if I could just sit in her class one summer. And I ended up making a sketch of, I call her Tita Ching. And then I discovered why this teacher was so loved by her students. And eventually I became a Waldorf teacher, and I used her story in grade 1 as a simple fairy tale. He just told out straight. And then in grade 5, I used it as a botany material, I mean, it's so related to plants and life. And then in grade 10 recently, because the doctor who usually gives the embryology block in our school couldn't do it anymore because there's so many children needing psychiatric care because of having been locked in. In the Philippines, we've been on online learning for 2 years. And until now, it's still being a debate whether it should be face-to-face or what. But the children have really suffered. So I just dared to take on an embryology class. And lo and behold, I mean, this just fits right into the story of, embryology, creation of life and transformation and everything. So thank you so much, Trina. And I've called my friend. My friend now is one of the speechwriters of Imelda's daughter, Senator Amy Marcos. I was hesitant to get her into the picture because I agree with you. I'm not happy with who the resident of our presidential palace is. But I mean, I'm not recognizing him as my president, but things are happening beyond our control. And who would have thought Imelda Marcos would even fit into our gathering now? She's still alive. I understand she's still sharp with her thinking, but cannot stand up very well. I mean, her knees are really a problem, I think. So thank you so much for this chance to share. And I'm amazed that many more people have not actually discovered this book. And incidentally, this year is also the 50th year of the declaration of martial law in the Philippines. So it's just such a beautiful thought that when that dark force came, there was this bright light that came from Trina to, to at least to counter whatever that was coming our way. But, healing continues, life continues, and we can only be thankful. So thank you. And happy birthday again, Trina.
Thank you. Russell, did you see the hand that's up in the corner, at least of my screen?
Yes,
It's Teresa. I crave
Oh.
your indulgence purely
Okay.
for educational purposes to mention the very, very important aspect of this book in that it's been translated into so many languages. I know it is in Swahili, which is an African country's language. I'm wondering if it, with all that has been said from the Philippines, and I'm talking purely as an educator, if it can be translated into Tagalog or any more languages in the world. Thank you very much. That's just my take on education, and hope for the flowers for educational purposes. Thank you.
And by the way, I now have all the foreign rights and all the rights except for the Korean and the Japanese and the Thai, which are still legally in place. They're all back for me. And one of my joys and hopes would be if we could republish these foreign translations as a whole series of books. Many of them could just be PODs because we won't know how many people would want the PODs and ebooks. But like the Spanish and the Chinese should certainly have print runs as well, because we're using them in our schools over here. Now, let's go to the organizer of this. That's Scott and Marisol and Russ now. It's now top of the hour and after that. So I don't mind staying on a long time, but what do you want to do? You have to speak up about this.
I think we've got two more people who said they wanted to speak. So let's try to wrap it up here for any last folks here. It's funny,
and once we do that, I want to jump back over to YouTube as well.
Okay. Well, I know we've got the two Debbies. So I guess we can begin with Debbie Kramer, who said she wanted to say something.
Trina, I'll just be brief, but speak a little bit for the family. I'm Trina's niece. So of course I've known her since I was born. And Trina, I remember when I was 7 or 8 years old, being upstairs on Cummings at your house, and you showing us how you were writing the book and how you were laying the black and the yellow color plates over to make all the colors. And we thought that was pretty cool. But, not just the book, the art, the clay, digging up the clay in the ravine behind the family home and doing sculpture with that. I remember as I was growing up, your social issues, your very large worldview, all your everything, every social issue, you know, that you were involved in. You were way before your time, ahead of your time in most of those things. The tapestries, I remember when you were weaving those with the women. You did all these things. And as I grew up, I read the book. You know, Russ was talking about the child's book, but of course, as I grew older, I saw that the book wasn't really a child's book, or it was more than a child's book. Since then, you know, I've shared it with friends. I've given it as gifts to my friends, to all of Robert's teachers at school. I have, Trina, you've spoken with my students, you've Zoomed with them, and you came in person once years ago, just spreading all of that, all that you are, not just the book, but all of it. And they were so impressed with you. I think it was in 2020 or 21 that you spoke with them, and they couldn't believe that you were 90. So I don't know, maybe we'll have to do that again. Now I'm hatching butterflies in my classroom. You've just made, you know, you've just been part of my whole life as I was growing up, and just, you know, all these impacts. So I guess I want to say happy birthday to you, and many more.
Thank you, Debbie. And then it's great to meet Trina's family, by the way. I've heard so much about Trina's family scattered in different parts of America. So it's nice to meet you guys virtually.
Well, thank you. And I'm right near where Trina grew up, in, you know, Cleveland, Ohio.
And then Debbie Looney, did you want to add something as well?
Hi, yes, happy birthday, Trina, again. I might be one of the last ones to know here, to get in this loop here, Trina. I've only known Trina how long? I'm not really sure. I'm another Montclair friend, neighbor, Russ, similar to you, just kind of stumbled upon Trina being so close and surprised that she was around the corner. So it was
Debbie, September 20th, 2020, the day of the big world young people's climate change thing. I was coming out of my driveway and getting stuck, and this woman came by with an envelope for me. That was Debbie.
Oh, I'm saying, I thought you were telling me this story. Yes, I stumbled upon, I similar to you, Russ. I love this story, and I'll make this short because I was wondering if Trina, I could share some of the video that we shot in the computer. If you
Ask the bosses here, the ones who are organizing.
We'll see. But anyway, it's a similar story where I grew up with the book, and one of my first kids was going off to college, and I would read this book to my kids all the time. And my husband and I own businesses, and we're very busy, and we work together. And through the years, when we were just kind of at our wits' end, or just, you know, hitting a stumbling block, I would get the book and say, okay, we got to read the book. And we would snuggle up in bed and we would read the book, and that would kind of keep us a little grounded. And we did that for a long time. And then when my first kid was going to college, I said, you know, I want to get this book for him to bring to college with him, my son, Jack. So I said, what a great idea for me to give to all the college kids. That was going to be my staple college gift, you know, to send them off their way. And so I bought a whole bunch of books, and I said, I wonder where this woman lives. I don't even know where she is. I don't even know. And I kind of Googled her, and she lived less than 2 miles from me, similar to you, Russ. It was crazy. And so we own a content event studio. It's called Loop. And this book has been an inspiration to me for this new place that I opened. And it's not a coincidence that Trina's house and my house, Loop, is in the middle. And I feel that that was meant to be, because it can't be a coincidence, right, Trina, that we're going to come together here. So I love everybody here's, I love everybody's story, and everybody feels passionate about Trina. But now is the time she's got to get out there, right? So like my goal, she knows I'm a little crazy. My goal is to get her on like Oprah Soul, Super Soul Sundays. So we're a little bit, we're the bull in the china shop, me and my husband. Amen. And we're going to help push this along. And we're hoping to have the event September 24th. We have to talk about that, because there's a couple little things that might be changing. But if we do it, it'll be amazing, and everybody's invited. And part of getting Trina's message out is getting Trina out, and she's a little nervous about it, I know. She's been the most unselfish person, and that's why her book isn't out as much as it could be. I mean, it's out there, but it could be out there a lot more. And she's dedicated her whole life to being an advocate, and that's my dog. Sorry, Sarah. So now it's time for her to really get out there, right, Trina? So we're gonna
I
get,
second that. I'll be with you each step of the way.
yeah, it's time to just get out there and show everybody and tell everybody and get your message out there to everybody, and not just this smaller passionate group, Trina, because like this video will show you, it's like the book was written for now, right? After COVID and what's been going on. So is it okay if I just share this one video, Trina? We kind of,
Whatever you guys can manage. And I see 2 more hands up.
And Marisol and Scott.
I think you need permission from Scott, but it's fine with me.
Oh, I think it's fine with us. Scott, you probably just have to give her permission to share her screen.
I think she has it. Go ahead and give it a try.
Yeah, I got it.
And did I see Rosa Soy wave her hands?
Okay, we're here.
Yeah, you're on.
Okay, here we go.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we put Trina on camera and we just let her go. And lo and behold, she's amazing.
I've always been blessed with having a sense that together we can change the world. Together we can change the world. We can make the world a better place. And ultimately, I thought we could help turn it in a Godward direction, that divine that's within us, that we can be in touch with it, and that will change the world.
And I have another bit here.
It has to be this interchange. And I'd love to think of millions of brightly colored butterflies flying together to change the world, which means carrying the love of one flower to another. The flowers do not fly. If you become your full self, your full butterfly self, instead of staying a caterpillar, you can fly and carry the love of one flower to another flower for the rest of your life. May it be so.
So that was just a little glimpse of what we're working on. And we're going to really work hard to get that message out there, Trina. So I'm happy to be a newcomer to the group, and however we can help, we are here. That's it. Happy birthday, Trina.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Yeah, we can all be advocates and supporters. I got to tell you, folks, when I went up there yesterday to speak my story at Montclair Film, first thing I held up my book and someone goes, "I know that book. I love that book." And then at the end of the night, because I brought my copy with me, people were taking photos of the book so they could go read it and purchase it themselves. So anytime there's any opportunities to teach new people about it, I do it, and I hope you guys do it as well. I know I get copies for new babies, weddings, funerals, birthdays, anniversaries, Wednesdays. There's really not a bad time to gift it. All right, Barbara, I know we're I don't want to keep everybody all night. So Barbara, why don't you share your story? Because I see you've got your hand raised there. And you're still on mute though. So you have to actually.
I'm still on.
You're good now.
Can I be heard now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just thrilled. This was a last minute thing. Trina answered an email for me, and I'm just thrilled to wish her a happy birthday. I'm from Michigan, and like your story a little bit, and something else that someone else said I want to remark on. I was introduced to the book when I was 32 years old, and I was seeing a psychologist, and towards the end of our sessions, he introduced it to me. Just made a world of difference to my life. Never, ever thought of meeting the author. And in February of 2021, I was having a book of my own published. I decided to look her up and Google her. And I've discovered what you guys did in 2020 during the pandemic. And I watched all 7 of that Days of Hope before I did this interview for my book. But I'm just, like another lady said, I can't believe Trina is such a nice woman. She answered my emails. And I said, and so down the road, we exchanged books. And I can't believe all of you. I want to say God bless you all that know her personally. This is something I never thought. And out of my whole book experience, that was the biggest blessing to meet her. So I do hope that you're able to do some things and to help her along here and get this known, because it's just the story everybody needs, and I need to go back to it all the time. So I know there's more I want to say, but God bless you all. I mean it. So thank you for letting me speak.
We've got one more. It's funny. I was on mute. We've got one more person here with their hand raised, so maybe we'll wrap it up here. Avita, is that you there? Would you like to speak?
Yes, that's my name. I live here in Ohio. I'm very good friends with Debbie, Trina's niece. I live very close to where she is, and that's how I happened to meet her and learn about the book. And I have visited Trina at her home. And one of my treasures is a picture of the 2 of us sitting on her porch, just chatting. And, and it just thrills me because she's such a great person. And Trina, I wish you a happy anniversary of your birth. You're only born once, but we celebrate this anniversary and treasure each year of life that God grants us. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to jump in here because we've got some chat that we need to really address here. And the first one, it's my own daughter, so I'm going to put it out there. Happy birthday, Trina. I wanted to let you know I love you so much. You have inspired me since I was a little girl, and you are absolutely one of a kind. You are truly a bright light of hope. We also released the butterfly you gave us today on your birthday, and she soared. Sending you all my love. That's Gabby. So the butterfly came out today, Trina. And
Thank you, Gabby.
yeah.
Gabby's
So
a singer, by the way. She's quite a powerful performer.
We have Carla and Glada, who says that she still has a beautiful picture that you painted of her mom. And she has all these wonderful stories of you with the Grail. Pamela Lewis, she says she envisions someday Hope for the Flowers being performed at the Metropolitan Opera House, Radio City, and Paper Mill Playhouse. There's a DCNPGH, I don't really know the name, but happiest birthday cheer, an older classmate in college, early 90s, read your book to us freshmen and what guiding hope for those years. Now, many years a Presbyterian pastor, this book is my go-to for last-minute fill-in guest sermons, which is so much fun.
Huh.
Robert McGlinchey, as a Unitarian church, I read Hope for the Flowers to 7-year-olds over 3 weeks. In the mid-70s, we acted out parts and built a caterpillar pillar. It was made of packing worms. Many caterpillars were drawn. So there's a lot of things that have come from your creation, Trina. It's just unbelievable. Very easy with the books. Young kids are responsive to its themes. This is also Robert. Meant to add, we made many pictures of butterflies too. Let's see, and going back to the chat in here, from Lindsay came in. Happy birthday, Trina. So happy I got to know you and that lots of people are still watching Aiden's Butterflies. A company called Beluga has created resources for teachers to use to teach about the film in their classrooms. Congrats on 50 years of the book. My friend is here from India. I mentioned this event to her and she said, I have that book. Love and hugs, Lindsay.
Thank you, Lindsay.
I think that kind of covers it. I'm pretty sure. And there were still people on the old YouTube. Unfortunately, YouTube does not let you put a link in a chat. So, so there's still people in here that we're waiting, and we apologize to those folks who didn't get a chance to see it, but hopefully they'll come back to the channel and we'll be able to see the replay. Again, thank you all for being here, for coming, for loving Trina the way you do, for sharing the message of hope across the world. We appreciate every single one of you. And Trina, we appreciate and love you so much.
Well, thank you. I thought you might like to see the book, the version of Hope. Can you see it? Am I holding it okay?
Yeah, we could see it.
This is coming out officially on the 6th of September. I don't know where you can get it at that time, but there's like 2 in the whole state of New Jersey, and this is one of them. And one of the special things besides this seal is what goes on inside the cover. This is really special. This is a bunch of quotes from various people, known and unknown, over the years. And the middle part is part of the Christopher slogan. It is better to light one candle than to curse the darkness. I just think that's a statement for all of our lives. Maybe we be candles in the darkness. Thank you so much for being here.
Butterflies, the world will have few flowers, so grow your wings and fly. Feed the plants and float by the river, and we'll be here by your side.
Make great choices and take big risks if they're good for you and the rainforest. Sing really loud and don't be afraid. You are the stuff of which butterflies are made. Hope, hope, hope for the flowers, transform, embrace, and realize your power of los que le necesita para vivir. Hope, hope, hope for the flowers, transform, embrace, and realize your power of los que le necesita para vivir. Sometimes the pile that everyone's a-climbing up seems like the shiniest thing. But look in the eyes of the others you've been stepping on and wake to the light of all beings. Hope, hope, hope for the flowers, transform, embrace, and realize your power. El bosque le necesita para vivir. Flowers, transform, embrace, and realize your power. El bosque le necesita para vivir. necesita para beber.